and the 1978 podcast. I'm here with Tom Carroll. Tom, how are you?
You know, all things considered, doing just fine.
Very cool. Yeah, I can't complain myself. What's going on right now in the world is strange and extremely horrible. And we could go into detail about that, but I can't say that I'm in a bad spot. I'm healthy and my family's healthy, and it could be a hell of a lot worse.
Indeed.
So, Tom, back in the day, at some point, it looks like some point after, at 7 years ago, I'm guessing, you and your buddy, or I guess at the time was school, you were in an educational environment together, and you started what you called Tom Explores LA, or Tom
Indeed.
Explores Los Angeles. And I actually found you by chance, just because I'm a fan of documentary style content, I guess. And because you were local, I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. He's got a lot of work out there, and that you were consistently producing stuff on your own. And I thought that was really great. And I at the time wanted to just do whatever I could do to kind of be in your world and connect with you. And doing this now, I thought of you as somebody who blazed their own trail and did something and created something out of nothing on your own. Can you talk about how Tom Explores LA came together and sort of what your purpose was, and go from there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing that I like about my origin story is that it's directly tied to community college. My dad taught at Rio Hondo Community College for his whole career, and I've always had a soft spot for community colleges, continuing education, good teachers. It's also a great deal. So I was taking a class at Pasadena City College as a 24-year-old. I graduated from undergrad a few years before. And the great thing about community college, you can sort of approach it piecemeal. I was kind of going through a quarter-life crisis at the time. I was a sign painter at Trader Joe's, and I liked that job. I was working under some talented people. I was just like, damn, like, where is this going? Like, I'm like bagging groceries, and just didn't see the sort of hopeful incline towards success that I had thought my mid-20s might present. So I was taking a class with a great teacher, and it was just like a general class. It was like sort of like some web programming, some just sort of getting comfortable with platforms. And granted, this is 2013, so it was like, what's up with YouTube? What's up with Twitter? And just sort of like a continuing education class in the best way. And one of the homework assignments for that class was to make a YouTube video under 5 minutes that taught someone something. And so I was like, okay, thinking through this, like, what am I going to do? At the time, I had just learned to juggle. So I was like, I'll make a juggling tutorial. Yeah. That'll be good. And so I kept thinking through that. And I was like, well, that seems like sort of uninspired. Is there something, how can I push this a little bit? And then I started thinking of places that I liked taking friends from out of town, taking people who maybe thought of LA as sort of just Hollywood, sort of all sheen. And I was born in Whittier, and my dad would take me into downtown LA. We go to Philippe's, we go to Alvaro Street. So like growing up, I was like, I liked Los Angeles. There were all of these sort of little spots that I just thought were cool. And so I've always tried to be a good sort of cheerleader for the city of Los Angeles. And so I was like, okay, well, I could what if I did a video showing people the 110 walkway? I can do that in under 5 minutes. And the one thing to correct the record just slightly. So Derek also worked at Trader Joe's. He wasn't in that class with me, but we became fast friends at Trader Joe's, talking about movies and whatnot. And so I was like, listen, man, I have this homework assignment. It's due on Tuesday. Will you just shoot this thing for me? And we're just going to walk along the one-time walkway, and then I'll edit it and blah, 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 and that'll be it. And so he shot it all, like I tried to sort of explain what we were doing, but at the time I didn't know cameras that well. So he shot the whole thing on a 50 mil prime lens, which is why if you watch the first episode, it's all sort of the same, shot setup. But I mean, it looks beautiful, and I like the fact that it was on a prime lens. I think it kind of adds to it.
What year was that? That was 2013. You said
that was February of 2013, and made that video. I don't remember what grade I got on the assignment, but I thought, I was like, oh damn, that's like pretty fun. And then I started thinking of other spots that I like taking people on. I was like, oh, well, I like taking people to the steepest street. And originally I thought that was Baxter in Echo Park. And then doing research for the episode, I was like, oh, actually Eldridge Street's a little bit steeper in Highland Park. And so it just sort of kept kind of moving along and kept moving. And because we both worked at Trader Joe's, I think this is sort of the key factor. Neither of us really saw the future for ourselves at Trader Joe's. So we were like very hungry to sort of build a world outside of that. And so
the first episode was the only school required. From that point on, you were doing it for yourselves.
Yeah. So the first episode was the homework assignment, and everything past that was just sort of us having fun and just sort of being excited about this thing that we felt was working and that people seemed to be, or at least our friends were excited about. The thing that I think about a lot when I think about those first few episodes is how much I owe to that, to just like community colleges in general, and then that teacher specifically, because I don't think I would have been as demanding of my friends' talents.
Yeah.
If it weren't for a homework assignment. I was like, listen, man, just help me out.
Yeah.
Because that gave us sort of
motivation.
The time. Yeah. It gave us a time constraint to work in. And I don't know, it immediately gave it some stakes. And, that's the long answer to how this whole thing started.
You tended to, one thing I picked up from watching your videos is that you were doing research. It was apparent that you were putting research in. You didn't just walk out to a location with a camera and say, "Isn't this bridge interesting?" You actually did the research, and sometimes would show the research in your video, but you'd go to pretty good lengths to find out where something, why something was built, who kind of was behind the purpose of why it was built. And some of these things that were only maybe accessible through going to, city libraries or looking at microfiche film and really actually spending some time. Did you learn things about Los Angeles that you it's almost like you became a historian in a way, really? If you look at all your content, it's like you cover a lot of LA and beyond, and a lot of these videos link together with factors that are, the water system or a railroad. And I'm wondering if you found yourself in a different place, maybe after you'd made 10 videos, after you'd made 15, or after the second one. And so you're saying you're going, I kind of want to find something to do. Trader Joe's isn't the long run, goal. When you're doing the third, fourth, fifth one or something, did you have maybe an epiphany and say, wow, this is interesting, I'm going to keep going forward with this because, or anything like that happen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the thing that one of the things I appreciated most about having the series was that it moved me from the realm of a crazy person to someone who needed to know the facts, because I wanted to sort of at least attempt to follow some journalistic integrity and make sure that what I'm saying is actually fact checked, and talk to the people that can either say, yes, that's true, or no, that's actually a rumor that people just think is true. So I think that's what I really enjoyed most about it, because I could go down to the library and ask either Glenn Creason or some of the other librarians down in the basement.
So you even know the librarians' names. That's pretty cool.
Oh, sure. I mean, Glenn
awesome.
Creason, I mean, he let's see, where's that book? Okay, one sec. I know this is a podcast. I don't want to.
Yeah. He apparently gave you a book.
So I feel like, luckily, Glenn got this book deal. So it's just called, this book's called Los Angeles in Maps, and it's by Glenn Creason. And so Glenn Creason is the head map librarian for the LA Public Library System.
Oh, wow.
And
to this day?
What's that?
To this day?
Yeah, he's still there. And I can't recommend this book enough. It's just like beautiful scans of these crazy old maps. And he has, about 1,000 words, 2,000 words written for each map. And so that's the other thing. When you get excited about researching because you're working towards this larger thing, people also get excited and they want to help you, because it's sort of, I don't know. I mean, working in the downtown public library can be difficult. Yeah, I remember there was like some paper printout sign of, like, I sat in this research cubicle, and next to me, the sign just said, "Watch out, urine puddle," or something like that.
Inside the library? Inside
the library, because the way in which we've sort of, we don't take care of our mentally ill people. So the downtown library has air conditioning and it has computer access. So there are a lot of things it provides to homeless people or people down on their luck. And so a lot of times these librarians who become sort of de facto mental health caseworkers. And so I know it can sort of wear on them. And so when you approach them with these like sort of specific questions and say, like, I saw you were talking about like this 1932 map or whatever, I'm wondering, where's the 1934 map or something like that.
It's almost like you become somebody who is interested to a level that it sparks their excitement to then add to your interest.
Yeah, and it's just fun, sort of almost self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, it's the same way like a teacher. You remember the teachers that you had in high school or college that you were excited about because they were excited that you were excited.
Yeah.
And it's this great sort of feedback loop of sort of lifting each other up and I don't know, just helping each other out and just sort of like getting excited about learning about history, sort of digging in the archives and finding these little nuggets that maybe have been sort of forgotten.
Yeah.
But
I think you probably were on both ends of that spectrum, because a lot of your videos and like you've been published, I guess, in some like LA news, whether they're online or printed. But I noticed that like there's articles that talk about what you've done, and this is like, LA, LAist, and we like LA and stuff like that. So they're seeing your interest in this city, and they're already an established magazine or whatever they are. So it's like the same thing. That librarian, you showed him interest and he poured his information, and then they see your interest, and then they, it's like it fed onto past you. It's like a cyclical kind of cycle. And to me too, I would say, because I have this sort of position that's or this opinion of LA that's probably shared by many, where it's like it's beautiful and ugly at the same time.
Definitely.
And it's a little bit of a train wreck that you can't take your eyes off of. And there's I am a fan of sort of the beauty in sort of natural sort of I guess grunginess, or one of the videos that you have made that's my favorite is the train yard, the
cool, piggyback yard. You just captured that piggyback yard at the right time of day and the right lighting, and even at multiple times a day, and
I'm a big fan of cinema and sci-fi and a lot of these films that were filmed in LA, and it's just that you caught a little piece of that, and that's it. I was born here too, and I think that you could be born in God knows where, Middle America or something, and love your town, but there may not be the media hype behind your town. You love your town because of what it is, but there's this whole media movie culture that goes along with things here, like the old 6th Street Bridge, and a lot of these iconic spots around here, and you capture some of those, and those have a lot of meaning to me, and I think that they meant a lot to that librarian, and they mean something to these other bloggers, and probably a lot of your viewers.
What's that?
Probably a lot of your viewers, I would expect.
Well, I mean, I think that's what was so exciting about working with Derek, because it's so hard to find someone who's on your level of commitment. I mean, this is why you had a band in high school, you did this, whatever, because you never want to sort of go on this artistic endeavor with other friends or collaborators, and then you're the only one who's excited about it, and then everyone else is sort of like, oh yeah, okay, let's do this. Yeah. And so it's so hard to find someone who's, one, talented, and two, willing to sort of commit and sort of just grind for a while. And so that's why I was so thankful for Derek, because all the sort of that cinema that you talk about, that aesthetic, is all Derek. Yeah. And so it was just, I feel so lucky to have met him and to have worked with him for as long as I did. And we're still very close. But yeah, like sometimes the thing that I love about, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've done some radio stuff before. I love podcasts, but the thing that I really take comfort in with doing video documentary work is that even if we made an episode and it was just like a pile of shit, like it didn't come together, my research was wrong, or my delivery was weird, at the very least we have visual documentation of this space in Los Angeles at this time.
For sure.
And so I think I'm excited, like thinking 50 years from now, it's not even about me, but more so just the documentation of that space in that cinematic way with the attention to detail that Derek brought, is just really exciting for me. Yeah. Because the thing during pandemic, I've been watching a lot of old unsolved mysteries, like with Robert Stack.
Oh, hell yeah. I love Robert Stack. His voice and the way he hosted that show, man.
That's my dream job right there.
Oh, really?
But
unsolved LA based mystery.
But the thing, like, not only are those episodes so good, but even if they were terrible, I just love seeing what some random dude in Oklahoma in 1981 looked like. Not a movie star, just this dude whose brother's gone missing.
Yeah. Just sitting on his couch in his living room with his thick glasses, looking off camera left, like my brother was a quiet man. It's so raw the way they did that.
It's just like, oh God, I love it so much. And so if we can even get just a little bit of that 30, 40 years from now, I will be just so happy.
I'm so with you, dude. That's a great point you bring up, because it would almost be worth just, and you probably got hard drives full, but it'd almost be worth doing a video project that would be sort of have no immediate value, but like you said, in decades, it would be really valuable. Like I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube that are a film camera that some guy mounted on his car, I guess, and just drove down Sunset in like 1963.
Yeah.
And it's shaky, and they'll take it and they'll stabilize it and somehow add color or do some sort of like editing to it to kind of make it more visually pleasing. But you see things like billboards, and you go, oh, look at the Marlboro billboard, a full-on cigarette, or look at the Roxy, the sign is different. Well, no, that's the original sign, or and things like that. And you see these changes that this city went through but you only notice them because of that visual proof of a time long ago. It'd almost be interesting to just take a camera out and somehow just map it out. Say, look, I'm going to literally drive east-west and just snake every downtown street and then do the north-south. And so you have every angle or something, and then take that and put that in a box and shut it and lock it and leave it there for, and then you can say, yeah, I literally scanned video-wise, first-person type of like visual proof of history of 2020 on a Monday, whatever. That would be interesting to have. It'd be interesting to have that on some hard drive full of video, of like 4K video, all this detail, so that like in 20 years when it's 20K, whatever.
Exactly. You're like, what is this, 4K? Oh my God.
BS. What's one of the, can you talk about one of the more difficult or unique videos you made, or maybe even if it didn't turn out to be a video, a project that you did under TLA that was unique in some way and was somehow, I don't know, maybe different than the others?
There are a few sort of lost episodes.
Oh, are there?
I mean, lost in that it didn't come together. I think. Let me just give a little bit of background. Derek and I, we really hammered hard. Let me make sure I can actually get the dates correct. Not that the dates are totally necessary, but I just finished my personal website, so I have gone through archiving everything. So I have. Is your YouTube
the only source for your videos, or are there like other videos somewhere else online, or is this just
everything's on YouTube. The lost episodes just never got finished. But so Derek and I, we worked super hard from February 2013 until July 2015. So 2 years and 2 months, we just hammered.
Wow.
And then at that point,
was it like every weekend, or how you guys are doing this around your job, right?
We're doing this around the job, and
would you kind of like decide like let's do Murphy's Ranch on Saturday, or like how did it kind of all? Because it was your brainchild, and you were saying I need your help. Or at that point, was it like both of you were totally into it?
We were both totally into it. The way it sort of broke down, I would do some research on something that I was thinking, like an episode I was thinking of that I thought would work, and then I would pitch Derek and be like, if I could get him interested, and then I knew it would be a compelling episode because, he's a filmmaker. And so if he was like, well, I don't really see the there, then I would sort of either do more research or just go on to something else. But so we were doing an episode like about every 5 weeks, at least for the first sort of 13, 14 months. And let's see. So the first 12 episodes, we did 12 episodes in under a year.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, let's take a 3-month break. And then, so that was the end of like season 1. Murphy Ranch was the end of season 1, quote unquote. Okay. And then we started.
Tom is Lost was then after that when you kind of sort of came
and then we started back up 3 months later in April. And then we sort of did one every 6 weeks up until July of 2015. And then at that point, I think Joey, I call him Joey. He goes by Derek now. His name is Derek Joseph DeBlasis. So when I say Joey, that also means Derek, if that's confusing. But I'm trying to call him Derek in this public setting because I know that's what he would prefer.
Sure.
But at that point, he was just like, we were just grinding on this show. And he's like, listen, man, I got to get out of Trader Joe's. And I got it because I got a little bit of a break at Trader Joe's because I was a sign painter. So like 60% of my time, I was in the back of the store painting signs, kind of doing my own thing. Whereas he was just stocking shelves, running reg. I I think it's a harder job, more of a grind in that situation. So he's like, listen, man, I got an offer.
Painting was a little bit of a relief from the front end of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's like, listen, man, I applied to this job at BuzzFeed and I got it.
Oh, nice.
And so
So he went to school to direct, shoot, something of that?
Yeah, he went to CalArts. He ended up leaving CalArts. I don't want to, dropping out, I think, is an unfair way to term it. He left CalArts just because it's really expensive. And so then he was also taking classes at PCC, but this was Pasadena City College, but this is before we met. But yeah, he's wanted to be a filmmaker. And so the nice thing with Tom Explores is that some people saw it, and he had a large body of work to say, I shot all this by myself, essentially. We had a director of photography come on for the last few episodes, but most of it he shot himself. And so people were like, yeah, come work here. And so he was able to leave Trader Joe's. He was able to kind of step more into the directing role and get paid for it. And so obviously I was like very sad when he left. Did
the BuzzFeed job take up too much time? It wasn't able to kind of give TLA
I think they had an exclusivity agreement. I don't think I think that they had a really strict contract where.
So they considered your outlet to be strong enough that they didn't want to see his work on both platforms.
Honestly, if I'm being delusional, I would say yes to that. But I think it's just for any person that worked at BuzzFeed, regardless of their body of work.
Wow, seems a little. It's not.
It's unfair.
Yeah,
I think this is also sort of at the height of BuzzFeed. This is like 2015, and so they were able to get filmmakers to sign less fair contracts because a lot of these filmmakers were talented but didn't really have a foot in the door yet. So they were willing to sort of give away a lot of artistic freedom to work there. Is sort of my understanding. But yeah, so he left and he's like, I can't work on the show anymore, and at that point, the way I work, so with thinking about your podcast and sort of blazing your own path, for me, my path, if I'm going to blaze it, I need the help of other people. Like I can't do it alone. I'm too much of a procrastinator. I need that sort of energy exchange between people.
I'm exactly the same way. The pandemic's been really hard for me in that sense because I don't know how to judge my own work in a vacuum. I need to hear someone say, that's interesting. It makes me sort of okay with it, some sort of positive feedback, or otherwise I just look at the page or whatever the project is and I think, does anybody care? Because I don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so once he left, I sort of stepped into the directing role, but then I'm still hosting it. I'm still writing it. And then I also I'm not comfortable asking people to work for free. And I know that you've very generously offered your services before. And like, only because you were so nice about it that I was accepted.
Well, I didn't consider it work. That's the thing. That's not like you have a corporation that's making millions of dollars and you come say, hey, do this. That is working for free. Helping out somebody who's also creating something on their own, and it's not necessarily for profit or that much profit yet. It's like, I could tell you weren't some guy that was just taking advantage of people. That's different.
Sure.
I get where you're coming from. Like, it's a good place to be, and that's professional, and I agree, and I'm the same way. But you see the difference.
I do, and that's a nice way of you to put it. But I just could never just email people and be like, I want to do this thing. And they're like, cool, I need to also eat. Can you give me anything? I'm like, no, I can't give you anything. And they're like,
you made poor old Derek do it for free.
Well, okay, so this is why, this is what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he had a lot of ownership over the IP and the videos that we created. I felt like we both knew that we were sort of building our own resumes, and that outside of the two of us, it seemed more exploitative. And like to ask someone to work long days and do that much for less glory. Like, it's not like the case of Derek where he could show these videos and say, I made these videos, I made all these videos, and people at jobs that I can actually pay him are like, oh, that's a lot of work. Well, okay, great. He was building up his portfolio,
Sure.
Whereas sort of getting people to sort of help me out, I'm just like, fuck, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, of course. It's whatever.
Okay.
You just can't play any top 40 albums. Apparently,
I wasn't sure if we're going for the younger demographic.
No, I clicked the little box that says this is not for children.
Okay, good. I'll lean into it then.
Yeah. Speak your mind, Tom. Speak your mind.
But I've sort of gone off.
No. This is the point of the podcast. Tangents.
Okay. Yes.
Tangents.
Okay. The point of the podcast: blazing your own trail. Couldn't have done it by myself. So once I lost Derek, I lost that sort of electricity, that back and forth.
Yeah.
And I just never. I don't know. I mean, I just never got comfortable.
So you did that when you lost Derek. You still created quite a bit of content after that.
Yeah, but it was a little more piecemeal. And the thing is, like, as you mentioned earlier in this conversation, you mentioned that we were putting out content fairly regularly, and that matters.
Yeah.
You sort of build this momentum, and people are like, "Oh, these guys are serious. Like they're putting out content pretty quickly." And so we sort of established this sort of flow, this episode flow that I then just couldn't maintain, or I was like too lazy. So
why couldn't you? Why wouldn't you feel comfortable finding another person who could shoot and direct that then would have their name on the video as DP or director or combo?
Sure.
That was doing it for the fact that their content would be out there, and they like, even though it says Tom Explores, wouldn't you be able to find someone that had the skill that would then say, I'm happy to have this because I know you're gonna finish it, edit it, and put it out, and we're gonna do this for 6 months, and that'll be a great body of work. Like, why not find somebody else? What was the?
Yeah. No, I mean, when you put it so rationally, I have no good answer.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I guess the answer then is that you had a
producer earlier on.
I guess the answer was that you had something with Derek that was sort of intangible then, I guess.
Yeah, I think that we had a really fun, easy working relationship. We worked well together. We had this sort of workflow where I would research, write it, pitch it to him. He'd shoot it, and then he'd do the first couple, like maybe 2 edit passes, and then we would come together for the final edit, and we could just sort of like sit together for like 12, whatever, how many days in a row, do the fine-tooth edit, sort of write some voiceover around it. I did all the graphics. I'm like pretty controlling about graphics and font choice, so I would do all that.
That definitely seems to be one of your thumbprints on your work is your choice of font, color. It's a very specific, I guess, aesthetic or design choice that's obvious when you look at the whole sort of list of videos. That this boldness, which stands out. I like it. I think it's good. I think it goes with the way you. I think it actually goes well with the way that you host, because the manner in which you speak, and this is just my opinion, but the manner in which you speak and you have this pace that seems to be kind of your natural speaking pace is it pairs with your graphic design in an interesting way.
That's a high praise. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I was a graphic designer before I was a historian, and so it was another fun aspect to creating those videos, because I always like so much of YouTube, it just lacks like videos lack good font choice or a graphic design sense. So I felt like there was a lot of room to sort of really set our videos apart by spending a little extra time with the titles or the lower thirds or the end credits. Like that was always really fun to me. I loved that sort of final push aspect.
I think with YouTube specifically, people tend to follow trends in order to get clicks, and they're not necessarily listening to their inner creative voice or what might be good for that specific content. They're just thinking, this is what people want to see in the thumbnail. I'll do that. And it's, I think you probably lose. I don't think they're thinking that they blend in with the other 500 videos in someone's search that look the same. And just like, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So you were getting to kind of maybe a specific video that was more or less the most difficult or unique in some way. Is that where we're heading there, or is it?
That's right. Yeah. I spent the last 15 minutes trying to get there, and then.
But it's good to have that backstory, because that talks about maybe what was going on and why something became difficult.
Yeah.
Or
so, like, as maybe 2-3 years in, let's see, let me remember this correctly. We screened a few episodes at what used to be Cinefamily. A friend of mine was doing a night there, and they asked to screen a couple shorts of ours before the film, which I think was Earth Girls Are Easy.
Oh, hell yeah. Great movie. Classic Gina Davis,
Indeed.
Jim Carrey.
So from that screening, we met this young dude who was looking to he was in just narrative film and wanted to get more into like documentary, like producing for documentary stuff. And so just met him randomly. He introduced himself after the screening and ended up working with him for quite a while. And he was sort of the person that helped me after Derek left, a guy named Zach Wechter. And
you feel that there was when you say person that helped you, if you didn't have Derek, was there something that, other than his skill set, was there something that, you saw in him that's like, oh, he's, there's a flow, there's a sort of a bond of like similar appreciations of art, or
same sort of film sense, same sort of excitement about history, as well as the fact that he was willing to work for free,
right.
Because I wasn't, because I think the crazy thing for me with even my sort of very small subscriber count of like 12,000, I have never actually received any AdSense revenue from Google. All the ads
never received it, have you? But you have qualified for. You've qualified for AdSense, and you have it in your monetized button is clicked or whatever.
Yeah, all that stuff. And
but you never received a dime.
Never a single dime.
Do you think that's because? What do you think the reasoning is because of that?
Well, I think to actually make money off of YouTube, you have to have like base 1 million subs.
Really? Wow.
To get anywhere close to a real paycheck. Like I think there's some sort of, I mean, it makes sense. YouTube can't be cutting checks for $1.12 and mailing them out for a postage that costs 42 cents. Yeah. So I think you have to hit some base level to get that check cut that is then sent to you. Granted, I know there are some videos that have been demonetized because we use songs that even though we had rights to, or the musicians agreed that we could use them, because of sort of the automated nature of YouTube policing that, immediately demonetizes them.
Yeah.
But that's a whole another crazy thing. But so essentially, Zach Wechter was willing to work for free. Really smart guy, great guy, nice guy, and he was connected to a talented DP, director of photography, Jordan Black. And so Jordan Black was able to come in as DP, and he was DP on the episode, The Guy Who Painted Over Graffiti, Larry. Oh, right. He was DP on Yana Del Rio. Really just talented guy.
So you had these two guys. You had now, when you would shoot, you would have a director, a shooter, and then a host. Used to be 3 of you.
So yeah, Zach sort of acted as producer director, and then I also ended up directing a little bit, and then Jordan was shooting. And I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things. Did I get burned out? I'm not sure. I mean, I just sort of felt like, damn, like almost not the same thought process as Trader Joe's. And I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
You know, like, where can I continue to invest this much of my own personal time in this thing that it seems like the growth has sort of dropped off slightly? And I can't say I made this series because it made me not a crazy person when I was researching things. You know, it gave me a reason to really dig into the archives or read books or talk to people. That's what I enjoyed most about it. I mean, like, I still go to this day. I go back and forth. I'm like, is the show over? I never announced that the show ended. Like, well, it doesn't have to end.
No, it's not
like,
over.
I could still keep going.
It's not over. It's, you know, I think it sounds like all it needs is that sort of, I guess the best way to put it would be for the stars to align, for you to have the time, for you to find someone that can do the things that you need. And if you ran into that person, or you felt like like that was that moment, and you had some notes on some video that never got done, I mean, it could just pop back up one day.
Sure. I mean, it definitely could. I mean, the thing that you helped me shoot, the guy with all the cars.
Yeah.
That you
didn't air that.
Ended
did you?
it. What's that?
You aired that? Why
no.
am I? Yeah, you didn't. Or you showed it, but you didn't upload it to the web.
Yeah, because it's finally now getting into festivals. So this year we pushed it out to a lot of festivals.
What was the runtime on that?
Like 10 minutes and 52 seconds. Mm-hmm. And so right now we're waiting, hoping for a Vimeo staff pick. It may not happen, which is, that's fine. But we've gotten into at least Oscar qualifying film festivals, none of the big ones, but like Arizona, Florida, Maryland. I think Maryland was the most exciting one. Oh, Palm Springs Short Fest, that was cool. Granted, all these things are virtual now, so it's kind of like, at least you still get the laurels. You can still throw the laurels up on the poster.
Look, I've got leaves on my video. Isn't that makes it so much better?
But
I like when people promote their short film and they will then change the thumbnail or somehow so that you see the 19 audience award, like best use of like music or something. It's just like every little thing they can jam in there.
Yeah.
So is that that's not something that you have on your YouTube? It's more something that was Atomic Explorer's product, but kind of taken in another direction. Yeah,
I mean, the thing I still see it. I mean, I'm still going to release it through the Atomic Explorer's YouTube page. Right now, I'm just not doing that because, you can't get a Vimeo staff pick, especially if you've already pumped it out through YouTube because, Vimeo is kind of territorial. I get it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But so we're waiting to either get a yes or a no from Vimeo. And then however that shakes out, then waiting like a week later and putting it up on. What
do you do do you try to basically submit it directly to Vimeo with the intention of getting them to look at it and pick it as a staff pick?
Yeah. So one of the big breaks for us with it's called Charlie's Lot, and I'll say for people listening, it's a guy. I won't say how many cars. The guy owns a lot of cars and parks them on the street out in front of his house, and he spends 4 hours a week moving those cars. So it's sort of like a meditation on when does a hobby become a problem? What's the line between historical preservation and hoarding? A lot of things that I'm pretty interested in, he exemplifies. But damn, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I was going to say that I don't want to go too far into it, but when you find a character, a person like that in this city, it's like a twofold. So you have this city, and then within that is this person. It's really interesting. How did you? Can you talk about how you found him at all?
Yeah, so I found his name's Charlie. I found him. I lived a few blocks over at
That's
that
right.
time in Highland Park.
Yeah.
And I just saw all these old cars, and I was like, okay, I think the same person owns all these old cars because they're just parked in the street. They're jalopies. They're rust buckets.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
he agreed to be on camera and talk about it.
Well, I just sat there and waited, and I finally saw because I knew when street cleaning was happening. So I was like, okay, I'll just sit out here, and then I finally saw this. I see this guy leave his house, walk in, get into a car, move it, walk into another car, move it. I was like, okay, so that's
you're the only person in LA that benefited from the street cleaning. The one guy whose street cleaning helped.
Yes, it led to this story, to me finding out who this man was.
Yeah.
But then a few days later, I just went and knocked on his door, and I was like, listen, man, I'm a journalist. I'm interested. Can I talk to you about your cars? And so it started with just radio, just audio, and I ended up doing a little radio piece, and I was like, man, this really has to be video because people need to see these cars.
Yeah,
and so luckily I had sort of wiggled my way into his life that he was willing to sort of let me stick a camera in his face. And I sent him the final cut just a few weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
Because I had been a little scared, but obviously it's only fair that he sees the final cut, and I think it's fair. I don't think it paints him as any sort of monster or anything like that. But he didn't write me back, so
he did not respond. It's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks, zero, no response, and I know he checks his email.
Interesting. No, maybe he's to the point in his life where he's like, that's cool. I gotta go move my cars and just.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, with the pandemic, he hasn't had to move his cars in like 3 months.
Oh, really?
Because City of LA has relaxed parking enforcement.
What an interesting what do you call it? Epilogue.
Yeah, so I haven't shot it yet. But there's definitely an interesting second part now because he hasn't had to move them in forever.
Bonus DVD content.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is though, even when they sat for 4 days at a time, many times he would have to jump the vehicle because it wouldn't start. So I know so many of these cars won't start once he has to start moving them for street cleaning again. So
yeah, that's interesting. That the fact that he had to move them every week sucks, but if you wait too long, it's worse. So it's really has to be done.
It has to be done, and he enjoyed being forced to drive them, even just for that little bit. Yeah. I think he likes all his cars. They all start just a little different. They all take just a little bit of like, you got to just gas it right now kind of thing.
I bet if he found, I was watching something recently on a guy that restores old cars, and I actually scratched that because I think I remember you telling me that these cars were almost like his, I guess I want to use the word siblings in a way. Like he cared about each and every one, didn't he?
Well, they're like his kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like even if someone said, I'll buy them all from you, he might not.
Yeah, I don't totally, even spending a fair amount of time with him, his biggest fear is that they'll get parted out and that they won't exist as that classic car anymore. And so he really feels like he can't let the car go until it's in mint condition. And the tricky thing for him is that instead of spending $1,700 on whatever new doors for a 1936 Nash, he'll take that money and have to put it into a tire that blew out on this other car or new spark plugs. Yeah. So it's just like that money quickly disappears just maintaining a base level of operation for each vehicle.
Yeah. I hope people see that. What was the name of what'd you title it again?
Charlie's Lot.
Charlie's Lot.
Because it's his parking lot, but it's also his lot in life. I didn't come up with that name.
There's an old. I'm only referencing this because of the name. There's an old documentary that was made probably in the early 2000s called The Parking Lot. And it's
not heavy metal parking lot?
No. It's about these kids that went to some school in Massachusetts, and they all work this part-time job. Yeah, the parking lot. It's probably on YouTube. The parking lot. These kids went to some school in Massachusetts. It's all shot by these kids that work at this valet kind of paid parking lot. But the characters, it's unbelievable. It's actually really interesting. Yeah, it's totally worth watching. It's super amateur, but it doesn't matter because it's all about these kids that work at this lot and the way the lot operates. And it's actually the owners are kind of this hippie. He's like, yeah, some kid wants a job. I'll give him a job. Who cares? They smoke pot. He doesn't care. And but in a professional way, but he's also really nice. And there's this big school. I forget what school it is. It's a major school that's a block away or something. And the parking lot is behind these buildings that are like on a main kind of drag with bars and stuff. So like every Friday night, whoever's working the lot has to replace the arm that goes down like twice a night because kids break it. And it's all these little things. And the little shed, the little shed where like the tickets and the little, time card machine is, it's like all, it's been, so what I do for work, if I am working, is like set decoration related. And in this art direction world that I know, couldn't make this shed look as good as it did because it's so real. All there's little drawings and like cigarettes pinned to the wall and just like spit and gum and a chair that's so old and broken, but every kid that's ever worked there sat in there. God, it's a great documentary.
I'll just check that out.
It's so fun.
The thing that I referenced, Heavy Metal Parking Lot, is also, I think, on YouTube, and that is like maybe one of my most favorite short docs.
I gotta watch
it's just this genius idea of where this camera, I don't even know if he's a documentarian or maybe just had a camera, but he had a good sense of story because he just goes to the tailgate, like he goes to the parking lot before the Judas Priest concert in like 1984 in like wherever, Ohio. And so he's just like walking around with his camera, and it's just so good. I mean, it's just these like crazy
people
Judas Priest
waiting
fans.
It's a bunch of people waiting for the concert, just hanging out.
A bunch of people just getting wasted, and damn. I mean, I also just like, I think it's like maybe one of the best titles for any documentary ever. Like, I'll never forget Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Yeah. Like, it's just totally so perfect in so many ways.
Some of these little documentaries that it almost feels like they, if somebody gets money for something and there's sort of people behind it and they're interested in profit, the amount that something is thought through and planned out and gone over and adjusted and changed and rewritten, it's probably safe to say that you lose some of that initial spirit a lot of the time because of those iterations. But some of these little documentaries like that I want to mention, all of that spirit is there because there was never it was never subtracted from. No one ever had their hand in it except for the maker and the designer, and the maker and the designers didn't ever think about it as anything other than just sort of releasing this idea from their head. They didn't try to make it anything other than just giving you what they filmed, and it's not going to win any awards, but it puts you there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a really authentic way.
Yeah. And I'll bring that back around to you because you put us as viewers into these little places, and it was very organic feeling, and I'm not knocking you. This is not a negative thing, but your first uploaded video, the oldest video, I should say, on there right now, it's so raw. You're just like, check out this bridge, dude.
Yeah,
the audio's crazy, and it's just like you're showing garbage on the ground, but that's done so rarely. Everything's cleaned up so much that you almost lose what it feels like to be there.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing with the show that we made. We just wanted it. I mean, because it was coming from an authentic place, and so we didn't want to sugarcoat anything or sort of edit out anything. I think we were just trying to create a real document of this space and time and give people access points to what can be a pretty inaccessible city, and things that are free, things that are always there. For me, I just don't like. Many times I gravitate towards less curated experiences. So it's like you can go and walk on this bridge. Here's this little hike you can do. Like, you don't have to overthink it. Here are some little facts about why it's sort of interesting. But yeah, for me, it's just almost sort of trying to like reset Los Angeles a little bit. Like we've kind of overcomplicated things. It's not all about Hollywood, even though that is its own interesting history. There are many layers to this city, and let's try and pull back a couple.
Yeah, that's one of the things. When I think about what I needed to do to sort of grow in my profession, and what a lot of people need to do to sort of overcome. When you think of filmmaking, if you haven't worked on a set that has like a big budget or anything and all these departments, it's more than likely just going to be like somebody and a camera and a friend, or a small crew of like a guy, maybe an audio a guy with a boom mic or a boom and a mixer. But for the most part, it's probably going to be small. But when you get to these big sets, and it's strange because there's so much going on that it's overwhelming. And when I talk to people that have not been on set of something that is large, meaning there's a budget and people have invested and it's a business, there's this confusion. And the thing that I needed to have done and I needed to get over was to have and the term I use is to have the process demystified. Mm-hmm. And going back to what you said, demystifying it allows you to not think of things that everything isn't so like amazing and magical anymore. And when you don't live in LA and you live elsewhere, but you find LA interesting and you watch a video about something, you're probably going to, if you search it, you're going to end up seeing, I don't know, something that's probably been glamorized, and they probably use a lot of stock footage that shows these things that are sort of the go-to iconic images. But to walk across a bridge or into an abandoned mall and to get that little that little small slice of the graph that says here's LA, and obviously you're going to see the Hollywood sign, but that really tells you nothing. What you really learn about something is when you see at sort of quote unquote at ground level and maybe talk to an individual that's lived there that is a librarian, or a guy that's lived in a city that has to deal with parking or whatever the case may be. And it's so much better that way. From a documentary point of view, a documentary shouldn't be cleaned up to the point where you've lost that tactile sense of what the subject is, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of why my most recent episodes have sort of transitioned to being about people, because at first it was mostly just about spaces. But I mean, it's also, at that point I was pretty green, and it's scary interviewing people. I wasn't a great interviewer. It's scary. It's hard sticking a camera in people's faces. You feel like you're invading their privacy. Yeah. But as we documented spaces, I was like, okay, well, there are people in this city whose histories will also be lost if we don't sort of talk to them or see what's going on. So I don't know, for this most recent episode with Charlie's Lot, I think I hope it still kind of feels the same as the earlier stuff, even if it's less me talking about history factoids, because I feel like, I don't know, with the most recent episode, I would really like to keep doing stuff like that. Yeah. And so using it sort of as a pilot for something moving forward. I don't know, but I think that's what's so great about good documentary work, is that it's this authentic, sort of raw document of a person or a time and a place. And I think that's what's so powerful and exciting about working in the medium.
Absolutely. The moving image is, to me, the best, I guess, a combination of the moving image along with, sorry, the moving, was that super loud? Probably. I think that's the best medium for art myself. You know, I like others, but I think it's the best is to have it to get a message across. To me, it's the best way is an image, an audio image, or at least the image, you know?
Yeah.
If you see footage without the sound of just a static shot of with a tripod, just looking at a street and seeing like the cars go by and a homeless guy and some garbage like blown down. I mean, that alone can tell you so much. It's like the classic phrase of, that a picture says 1,000 words. You can't describe that to someone without seeing it,
Definitely.
In any city. I mean, here, probably I'm biased. There's a lot of stuff here that you don't realize how much, like how bad is Skid Row? Well, let me show you some video, and you go, holy shit. Yeah. I could tell you it's bad all day, but when you see footage, now you're on the level, right? Like that, it does something. And documentaries are great, and movies and everything. They do a great job. Documentaries for their own purposes, but I was going to ask you, do you have any intentions with your IP, your lot of content in the future? Have you had any thoughts? Has anybody approached you saying, hey, we want to put all your stuff on our website? Can we buy you out? Can we steal all your hard work? Anything like that? No.
I mean, there were some really early on, like 3 episodes in, we had some conversations with KCET, sorry, I freaked out because my big screen just blacked out, but it's totally fine. So early on, conversations with KCET, that didn't really pan out, and they ended up, we didn't hear back from them for a long while, and then they just started making Lost LA. And,
wow. Really? So you talked to them and they saw your work, and then they probably, it sounds like what they did was go, and why do we need him again? We have to.
Sure. But obviously I'm the one telling you this. You'll have to fact check it. Yeah. But it was Derek and I had a meeting with a gentleman there who I won't name.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, love the show. This is great, blah, blah, blah. But this was
3 episodes in?
What's that?
3 episodes in, you said?
3 episodes in. So we're really green. Yeah. And we're like, whoa, KCT, cool. And mind you, this is a few months after Huell Hauser had died. And so...
For people like me that are on the slow end, Huell Hauser, KCAT president? I don't know.
So Huell Hauser was the host of California's Gold.
Okay.
Which, if you haven't seen...
I'm sorry.
You have to see.
I feel bad right now.
Don't feel bad.
I may have seen a clip because I remember the name of the show, but I can't recall. Yeah, if I recall right, it's just like stylized California coast and drives and a lot of like flower shots.
I think that's you're giving it a higher production value than it actually has. I do. Listen, I love, I appreciate everything that Huell did. He did hundreds of episodes about anything.
Yeah.
And so much like me earlier in this interview talking about how even if the episode was terrible, at least we documented a space. He did that in spades. Like, honestly, there are some episodes where I don't think they edited a single minute out, where it's just like a 30-minute straight take.
Oh, wow.
And Huell Hauser, he is sort of like God level among a lot of people in California, he was sort of folksy. He was from Tennessee. He had this sort of accent where he was like, wow, that's amazing. So that was sort of...
So it's fun to just watch him in general, not to mention the subject matter.
Yeah, you just sort of tune in for Huell, and it's sort of like the perfect COVID quarantine watching, because it's like very chill. Yeah. He's just talking to people. He'll go to like the little train museum in Los Feliz and talk to the gentleman there and be like, yeah, well, I've always loved trains, and be like, wow, I love trains, like that sort of dialogue. But okay, so this guy Huelhauser, he died in, I think, January 2013, and so this massive hole was like he was KCET's biggest star. And he sort of went around and talked to people, found the sort of small stories, the neglected histories. And so when I started making the show, I don't think I considered myself sort of in that vein, but I'm sort of like a curious white guy talking to people about little stories. So there's a lot of overlap. And so at the time, what we heard was that KCET felt like it was too soon to sort of invest in somebody new.
Yeah.
And also the budget, I think they were offering us $500 an episode, which is obviously just nothing, beans.
At the time, that was not worth it to you to sell the episode to them for that?
No, because one, we knew $500 wasn't enough to really make it worth it, and also we would have to give over a lot of our creative freedom. And so we're like, this is not enough money for us to sort of sacrifice this thing that we have like a clear vision for.
Yeah. Classic corporate trying to almost get you to work for free, really. If you consider how much time it would take you to create an episode, you're probably working for like $1 an hour at that point.
Probably. And so I don't think we ever said no, but then we didn't hear from them for a while. And then about a year later, they started Lost LA.
Yeah. And
this is nothing against Nathan Masters, the host of Lost LA. He's a great writer. He wrote this great, I don't think he created it, but he did a lot of writing for this website called LA as Subject, which I think is still up. It's still a lot of great essays. So they took a lot of his writing from that and just turned them into video segments.
Do you think that when you saw Lost LA, did you get any sense that it was sort of on the lines of what you were making?
Yeah, I mean, I think Derek and I were both like, fuck this show. That was just between he and I. We never publicly sort of expressed that
did KCAT
sort of ill will.
Yeah. Did KCAT find you and approach you? They
KCT, they
caught wind of
us.
They caught wind of your videos online due to their own search.
Yeah, so somehow someone sent them the video. I don't remember how that happened exactly.
Interesting.
But I mean, this is like, I sound so bitter right now, and I hope that it doesn't. Well, I mean, it's more funny, and I totally appreciate what Derek and I were able to go on and create.
Yeah.
Within, just doing it ourselves. I think we learned a lot more. But long story short, no one's really approached asking to buy the content. Also, like, I don't know what they would do with like music licensing. It would be sort of like a lot to untangle, because I think a lot of those original string outs from like Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere, I think maybe they've been deleted or lost. Just because, I mean, you know what it's like wrangling all those hard drives and just like, okay, well, maybe we don't need the 8 takes from that one episode 7 years ago. So I don't even, re-editing would also present its own problems potentially.
And so this is something they were telling you that they didn't want to get involved in all that, or is that you're just assuming this is probably
I'm just sort of playing out hypotheticals of what it would take potentially if someone were to buy it. But
there's definitely like probably a huge, anytime you would buy a like pre-produced content, you're probably looking at amongst everything just the legal, I would think.
Yeah.
A lot of investment there.
Yeah. And also, like, there are potential liability concerns because we were going into off-limit spaces, blah. But all that being said, I'm still, like, I would still love to host some sort of documentary series. I don't know still trying to sort of figure out what that would look like. That's part of the reason why I sort of revamped my website, to sort of try and organize all the things that I've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, you blaze your own trail, and a lot of times
well, it's
you learned a lot blazing the trail, but then you sort of get to a dead end.
I wouldn't call it a dead end, honestly. You're not at a dead end, really.
Sure. Well,
I don't think it's fair to say that you and your potential and your thoughts and all, what you could do is not it's a dead end if, like, you somehow lost your ability to speak. That might be a dead end.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think maybe because, like, I'm an only child, like I just like keep all these thoughts in my head, and they just sort of like bounce around and morph.
Oh, you're not alone in having ideas bouncing on your head.
Well, sure. But I feel like as an easy scapegoat, I can use being an only child to get away with a lot.
If that's the label you want to put on it, sure. It could be anything. It could be in an X amount of time. You could look back and something could have changed, and you'll go, "Wow, it was great that I wasn't doing it then, because it needed to sort of go away from me to come back in the right way." Who knows? Time will tell.
Yeah.
I want to jump back. Did you finish what you were going to say about your potential sort of most difficult episode? I don't know if we.
I never did. I never did. Okay. And I guess
let's hit that.
Maybe I've become more long-winded in my old age.
Boy,
I don't know.
Unbelievable. This is the last time I do a podcast with you. So Tom is lost. It was the most no. Which one was the crazy one?
Well, it wasn't even that crazy, but we just tried to. A friend of mine from college, Max Podemsky, he wrote this great essay for The Guardian, and it was looking at hamburger stands in downtown LA as sort of the canary in the coal mine for greater force, like downtown shifting once again. So he sort of looked at it in three parts. So the first part of downtown is super dense, not a lot of cars, obviously, because cars haven't been invented yet. But then car usage spikes 1920s, 1930s, so buildings start getting knocked down and parking lots pop up in their place. And many times in these parking lots, there'll be one little spot dedicated to a hot dog stand, a hamburger stand, some sort of like indoor-outdoor restaurant space. And he noticed that a lot of those little hamburger stands were getting knocked down in like 2015 or so, because downtown was sort of re-densifying, buildings were going back up. So I just thought it was like this really fascinating, fun way to look at the changing face of downtown. And so we spent a full 12-hour day with him. He was sort of hosting and I was sort of asking him questions. But I forget why. I think because we had access to it, we shot it on a red. And just because we're like, oh shit, we shoot on a red. And so
next thing you know, you have like 90 terabytes of data.
Yes. And so I guess you can, I can't explain it that well because I don't remember totally, but everybody wants to shoot on a red. It's just a type of camera that is cinema quality imagery. And so when we got access to a free red, we're like, yeah, let's do it. But the issue with a red is it's not a great dock camera because the batteries are gargantuan and they don't last for shit. Yeah. And so I think that was one issue we sort of ran into.
I can't see that camera adding any value to your aesthetic anyway, Yeah,
so that was sort of a misstep on our part. We just sort of got greedy, or just because we had access to it, we're like, yeah, we got to do it that way.
And this was with not Derek, but those other two gentlemen you mentioned.
Yeah, so this was with Zach and Jordan and another friend. Joe, who came on sort of as another producer. So there was like a lot of us, and there were like a lot of spinning plates, and we were still sort of trying to find the narrative as we were shooting it. So we were interviewing shop owners and interviewing sort of people on the street. I think we should have pulled back a little bit. We were spreading ourselves a little too thin, and just got all this footage. And then we ended up transcribing most of the interview that I did with Max, and we were editing it back and forth. And then that was we had some interest from Bento Box, which was a production company that I think made Bob's Burgers, if I remember correctly. They were sort of involved with a programming block at Fox a few years back called ADHD. And so we were trying to do live footage plus a little bit of animation, that the animation could sort of recreate parts of history that maybe weren't caught on camera, or sort of explain ideas. And it all seemed like a pretty fun potential show. At the time, we were calling it Field Trip. But essentially it was just Tom Explores with a different name and some animation. And so we were like going back and forth, writing it after we shot it. But none of us had a powerful enough video card or enough memory to really dig into the footage. So that sort of hobbled us.
Whenever I've seen a Red camera in use, what sort of some people don't think of is there's usually one guy dedicated to data wrangling, called him like a DIT. Data technician. I haven't worked.
Was it digital image transfer or digital image technician?
Something. Yeah, I think that's it. And that's actually, it's a union job. And he's there to not only manage batteries, well, maybe not batteries, but cards. So he's managing cards. He's taking them from the camera, putting a fresh card in, taking that footage. I think the term is transcoding. So he'll take it, keep the original, make copies for safety.
And then he'll even do some color correction too sometimes.
And they have a whole mobile cart with tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and high-end computer to do all this stuff, because there's so much information in those video files that to drag one into your software and manipulate it takes massive amount of processing.
Yeah. so like at every step we were just like, shit, this is complicated. Yeah. And then we never really got a good sort of pilot together, didn't really get a good pitch together. The people that were potentially going to produce it, I think that they either lost faith in us or got busy with other things. So it never really came together, but I still have all that footage, and I think we probably shot it in 2016. So in that 4-year gap, I think it would be even more compelling to go back and shoot some stuff now.
Oh, interesting.
And just do some match cutting of things that we shot back then.
You could reshoot some of the footage from the same camera position now, and then have sort of HD footage of two different timelines, which are probably fairly different in that 4-year period.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that's in the Air Force, and I'm not a DP, but I've kind of always felt that it's good to just have a camera, shoot stuff, and he had always spoken about going into the Navy or going into the military, and he didn't do it till he was like mid to late 30s. So I have tons of footage of him from years and years of talking about it, doing things related. And then when he actually did it, I went out to where he was training and I shot an interview of it. So I've got like just this massive amount of footage of this guy I know. He's a great best friend of mine. And I have no idea what I'm going to do with it.
Sure.
I think that, and the more I think about it, I think that what it needs something to cap off the military career or desire to be in the military. I need to sort of have those bookends. Here's where the idea spawned or like sort of came to consciousness. And this is when I was finally done with that idea, and that is the story, I think. And that hasn't come to that point. So I don't think there is an ending yet, even if I edited it. It's strange. So that's the lost / most complicated episode of Tom Explores that exists, huh?
Yeah, I think I think that was the most I ever shot for something that didn't see the light of day.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff whatever we shot, we pretty much used.
Yeah.
As far as like the idea itself, obviously we didn't use everything that we shot for that episode, but like if we shot something for an episode, that episode eventually aired. And yeah, that's the one sort of lost episode.
Yeah. You wouldn't be proper if there weren't a lost I think every entity that makes sort of an episodic type of work has to have something in there that never got, it's like the little mystery in there somewhere.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to have a lost episode, to put all that work in for just kind of nothing.
Like I said, just like it's not over. That could come to be something one day. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe the beginning of the episode will cut to this podcast, and it'll be this conversation that you and I are having right now.
What really became of the last episode? Well, conversation. It was a conversation, just a final conversation to nail in the coffin, kind of like, yes, that's what it was, and it's buried. The end. Yeah,
no, but this would make for a good intro.
There you go. I think it's Creative Commons. You can take it, can't you?
Well, obviously you'll be credited.
I better be. I don't work for free. Well, what's the next step in your? So if you're not working, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like this whole COVID thing has got me thinking about what I could do, and then I realized, well, I can't really do anything.
So the thing, luckily I have some experience producing podcasts and working in radio and stuff. So, and it seems like those jobs are hiring right now.
Oh yeah.
So I just mostly been applying to podcast producing jobs.
Oh, as far as like, I'm not going to consider going back to what I had. I'm going to just move on to something else that comes up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just don't see, like you said yourself, you haven't worked since March 13th. I don't know what, at least for the next couple of years, what the landscape of video is going to look like. And, obviously this extra COVID cash will run out at some point. So I'm just trying to...
Isn't it run out this Friday, I think? I think that's...
Okay, that's end of July, right?
Yeah, I'm not... Well, from the news that I've seen, it sounds like, I don't know what it's going to be. God knows, the fucking government. But the Republicans don't want to pay it, so
that's right.
It may come back less, or California might try to take on some of the payment to give to Californians. I don't know. It's TBD for sure. Yeah.
So in the meantime, I feel like podcasting is a little more pandemic proof. So that's sort of my near future. But I
really think that social media, as much as I don't agree with it, I'm not a legit fan, but I think from what I've seen, and my wife does some work in that world, that it's moving and shaking, and it's somewhat pandemic proof, and it would, people can still be on their phone by themselves and click on a link and buy stuff and watch ads, and you can still put a podcast on and entertain someone. I'm here by myself and you're by yourself, but we're doing this. So that's, it would actually be a lot more work to do from both parties to do this in person. So really it's easier.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are definitely some people are discovering the advantages of being stuck at home. And I think it's been a good sort of reset for sort of the, I don't know, at least for as far as workplace goes. Like, yeah, we don't have to be stuck in our cars and commute every single day, or at least a lot of these jobs can be done from home. And
very true. There's my wife was talking about a lot of these schools that are, I don't know where she got the information from, but she said that there were major schools sending that are not, these are like schools that have big campuses that are sending out communications to the students about how to take classes, and that a lot of these classes are going to be online, and that it's sort of the subtext there is the school. I'm probably misrepresenting this, but the school seems to be realizing that they're like thinking to themselves, why are we paying for all this land and parking garages and staff and rooms and chairs and so much infrastructure and all these things to have these kids take class, that like, it's like the Uber sort of thinking. It's like, why have a taxi company pay for the cars when the person has their own car? Mm-hmm. So why pay for these kids to have a room when they've got their own laptop? They just DIY it, and we still charge them the same educational fees. Mm-hmm. Which, I don't know. I personally think I'd learn better in person with with an instructor, a professor in a classroom.
Me too, 100%.
Like I couldn't talk to, especially if I was one in 30 little thumbnails, and there's one instructor there, and how do you get 30 people to all shut up for a second and not have the audio sort of choked?
No, I would be far dumber as an adult if I had to have learned my schooling through Zoom, because I just know I'd be like fidgeting. Like even now I'm like fidgeting. I have like this, my girlfriend's like tweezer, and I have like this thread. I'm just fidgeting.
I do that too. Here. Like I'll just oh cool, this little like GoPro lens cap. I'll just squeeze it. So I'll sit here and squeeze it for 10 minutes, and I go, what the hell am I doing? Put it down.
I can't imagine being 15 and
oh, dude.
I feel for those kids, man. It's got to be.
I'm actually scared having I have a 2.5-year-old, and one of the big future thoughts, this is totally getting way off subject, but is social media usage. Because I know that I was sort of this introvert, and still am introvert, like sort of, I don't know. I wasn't a nerd. I wasn't a jock. Computers weren't really a big thing yet, or they were sort of somewhat out of touch. So I was kind of just creative. Like I brought a video camera to school and just would film and stuff, because I just didn't know how to express myself. There was no social media. So when you leave school, no one talks to you. You call your friends and you go see them, but people aren't talking about you to other people necessarily on a grand scale. But now, I mean, some kid can say, I went and had the most amazing weekend. Here's a picture of me at the beach. And if you don't, I just feel like there's going to be so much opportunity for kids to make other kids jealous or feel bad or look cool or portray themselves as cool. And to, I don't know, it just seems like a horrible thing for someone that's in their youth like that.
I know. I ended up deleting my Instagram a couple months ago.
Oh, you did? I was going to ask you about that, because it came up on my little app, says I've got one of those stupid apps. Okay, I got one that says someone unfollowed you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll see them all.
Does it unfollowed you?
Well, I think the app just assumes because you went away and lost, I guess Instagram, whatever their algorithm communicates to this extraneous app, and the app is not sort of part of Instagram, so they just get that data in whatever sort of way they interpret it. And if someone unfollows you or deletes their account, essentially they've unfollowed you. I don't really care. Like, to me, it's just like you're doing whatever you had to do. But then I looked at it and you had changed something, and I'm like, maybe he just doesn't care anymore, and he's whatever. Like, I didn't think about it, but I thought maybe you had deleted your account. So what was the thought process behind that?
I don't know. I felt I was spending too much time on it, and I just wanted to be more free. I wanted to be able to read again. I had to get rid of that sort of impulse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bringing me very much joy. I wasn't learning much. And I was just like, why am I giving over so much of my day? Because I really had trouble. I was just sort of stuck in the feedback loop.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know, like, why am I doing this? I don't know
Totally
what I'm doing this for.
understand.
So I changed my handle from Atomic Source LA to tomcarroll.online, because that's the URL that I've migrated everything towards, tomcarroll.online. Shameless plug. And
go for it.
So
all of my 10 people that watch this are going to just go right there.
So I changed it, and then I was just like, shit, I'm just going to delete this and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and I just like, it's been nice because my girlfriend will sort of give me the news of like what my friends are doing. So Derek's on like a big road trip right now, and I didn't realize he had left, and he had been talking about it for a while. And Nikki, my girlfriend, was like, "Oh yeah, Derek's like in Utah." I was like, "Oh cool, he went on the trip."
Oh yeah.
You know, so it was like this like human exchange of like how we used to talk and share information. That was just sort of nice. And like, so like if I want to like check Instagram, like I'll just
grab her phone
or do it like look at it with her.
Yeah.
It's just like a little more communal. It's less sort of like I feel less addicted.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
I don't know.
I think I downloaded like at some point my wife said something. She's like, "Oh, we should make a video about our daughter," like, you know, doing nothing all day one day. And she's like, "Oh, download TikTok and watch this video." So I download it, and I shit you not, man, I like downloaded it and looked at whatever she texted me the link to one of the videos she wanted me to see. So to see it, I had to have the app, download the app, click on the link, look at it, and then it keeps playing more videos. Mm-hmm. Like 20, 30 minutes went by. It was just like this.
Yeah.
And I'm watching like people fall on do like jackass related kind of thing, or like just people like singing to like whatever the trendy like dance song thing and just doing the same dance that everyone else, their version of it. And like I turn it off and I'm like, dude, that was almost a half an hour. I'm like, fuck this, dude. Like I already feel like I'm in this weird like time suck thing where like I'm losing time of my life that could be put towards some creative outlet. And then I spent time on that and it almost made me depressed in a way, because I just like, I feel like I got robbed, man. Turn that off. It's just so, it's, to me, Instagram can be a waste, or it can be, you can learn something from it or gather. You can't learn shit from TikTok. And all you see is just utter nonsense, in my opinion.
I'm going to totally contradict myself. I actually do. So
don't tell me.
I don't have TikTok on my phone, but Nikki does, and I love just going on TikTok, at least with her. Yeah. So again, it's a communal thing.
Yeah.
It's mostly what it comes down to. It's like social media usage for myself when I'm by myself. That's where it can sort of like put me in a depressive state. But in a lot of ways, the TikTok algorithm that we've sort of cultivated is sort of like American Science Film Videos adjacent. So I laugh a surprising amount when I use it. Like I'd never laugh when I use Instagram. Like there's no joy in Instagram. I mean, there's like beautiful photography and nice cinema and whatnot. But I feel like I'm shocked at how often I laugh by videos on TikTok.
But what are you laughing at though?
Okay, so I swear it's mostly just like weird, like funny dog videos.
See, that's my point, is like I'm not saying anything against them. I'm saying personally, if I'm a little bit what's the right word? Even if I'm looking at whatever the app is, I have to feel like I'm at least gathering some positive direction of data, whether it's I'm seeing the way a photographer shoots landscapes or you know, these behind the scenes of how this movie was made, or some like positive like influx of information that I can store. I guess that's like sort of the like mechanical way to describe it. But when I get caught up in these like just goof off, I'm just like, dude, I'm getting zero. It's just
I get that.
Time going out the window and like you know.
And it's hard. Like we'll set a 10-minute timer, and we'll be like, okay, just 10 minutes of TikTok.
Wow, really?
And we'll set a timer, and we'll watch it, and then inevitably the timer goes off, and we dismiss it, and we keep going. It's just like,
wow.
it's
you swipe it away and go, I'm watching.
yeah, we're like,
well,
no,
I will
that
say
wasn't
this
enough.
though. I will say this: if you're watching an app with a loved one, if that's time spent together, then really, what's the difference between that and going to a movie theater or a show or something? If you're together and experiencing, then there's a communal thing going. If you're just by yourself laying in bed and you should be going to sleep or something,
yes,
it's different. So
yeah, I think that you're getting to the point that I didn't actually articulate. It's like, yeah, so it just feels like it's a shared experience, and then inevitably we'll sort of reference that TikTok video later on. So it brings a sense of joy to the relationship, and I guess, like, I don't know what TikTok would be like just by myself. I'm sure I would resent it the same way I resented Instagram.
Yeah. But overall, social media is it's an odd thing. It's an interesting subject that could be talked about in length because, like politics, everyone has sort of an opinion on it and can go down.
I forget, how old are you?
I'll be 42.
So MySpace came along for you like middle of college or after college, or were you even on MySpace?
I did it for a short period of time. I wasn't active on it. I think I did it because probably someone else said, "Hey, I'm on it. Get on it. Let's whatever." I remember MySpace having a short run in my life, and then when Facebook came around, I did it again. I was dating my current wife, and I jumped on Facebook for her, per her requests. I only ever jump on social because someone else says, "Hey, I'm on it," and I'm like, "Okay, if you're on it."
Well, I think that's how it works for everybody.
I guess so, probably.
Because for me, I was MySpace. I was around. I'm 34. MySpace was around. Not too much. It was like junior year of high school, I guess. And then I got Facebook. I think Facebook launched like 6 months before my freshman year of college. So I had Facebook in college and kind of got sucked into it. But luckily, most of my younger years were social media free. I mean, granted, I did AIM Instant Messenger, which I guess you could say is a form of social media, but it still was one-to-one. It wasn't this true social.
Well, I know that when I realized what YouTube was, I remember that being a little bit more significant to me, because to me, I thought you can upload for free, show people, send links, show them on what you did, and it doesn't require anybody else. It made the person who wants to show video to somebody at the time completely independent. It's like having a distributor. You know, there are a lot more restrictions than I think the running time was like 10 or 15 minute tops, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So YouTube has changed drastically, but still, you make a 5-minute film, it's hosted for free. And anyway, but my point was that was pivotal. And I think that was 2007 or 6 or something.
Yeah, I think 2006, technically. I think I heard about it in 2007. I don't remember.
The first iPhone came out not too long after that. And it wasn't until after the iPhone that I remember having much social media interaction, because it wasn't until you could do it on the fly that I really engaged, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So
YouTube, February 2005.
Oh,
and then Google bought it in November 2006.
Wow, that was fast. They saw
the
the value.
Good thing. But we're running out of time.
Yeah. So people
it.
can absolutely not catch you at Tom Green Instagram, so they will have to go to
yes.
Tom Did I say Tom Green? I said Tom Green. Tom Carroll.
But that works too. They won't find me at Tom Green's Instagram. That's a true statement.
They will find him doing more of what he'd done in 2007, I think, because he's kind of
really. I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has sparked Tom Green. What did he call it? He called it when he was doing that studio for MTV in the show. Or for himself, he called it Vision, Webovision, I think. I don't know if he coined that, but that was the term. I think he's calling it. He's doing podcasts and just odd videos, same sort of randomness, but all by himself, stashed in his house. I think he's cool. I think he's funny, but Tom Carroll cannot be found
on Instagram,
but you can be found at tomcarroll.online.
Yes, tomcarroll.online. My email's there if people want to say what's up.
I highly recommend going to that tomcarroll.online and communicating. And I also recommend going to Google and searching Tom Explores LA.
I think YouTube.com/Tom Explores LA will take you to the channel too.
Sure. But for all the people that are lazy like me that just open Google and want to search.
True.
When you search Tom Explores LA, it will most likely be the first link. Or you can go directly to the link. So when you do that, check out the videos because there's a lot, and this is not, I don't get money from Tom Carroll. I get entertainment and knowledge. And check out all these videos. I'm looking at them right now. It's a fun slate of just all kinds of interesting insights and documentary about Los Angeles and things connected to Los Angeles, and they're fun and informative, and I love them, and I appreciate you being on. Do you want to shout out anything else you got going on right now that you want to talk about, point anybody in a direction?
Yeah, the only thing coming up, Charlie's Lot, hopefully debuting the next few weeks, so this will be debuting sometime in mid-August, hopefully. Excited about that. Share it with your friends.
Yeah. I look forward to that being out. I saw it once at a screener, and I liked it, so I hope that it will be online soon.
Yeah, and look for Vimeo... Alex Potter's drone footage. Pivotal.
Is it going to make it in there?
Moment.
Did it make it in?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, yeah, that drone footage is pivotal because it sort of, I'm able to lay out his sort of trajectory. I put some After Effects little dashes over it, and so it's really crucial.
That's great. I always thought that was a good way to help the viewer understand this guy's process. Is that top down? Yeah,
because it's a complicated thing to explain with words.
Anyway, I hope to see that soon.
Let's hope so. But Alex, I appreciate you having me on here.
I appreciate you being on here, buddy. It's my pleasure.
Hey, well, pleasure's all mine, and best of luck with this. I hope it keeps growing.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. if I can manage.
Is that the schedule?
Yeah, I'm trying to stick to a weekly. Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway.
Cool. Okay.
Tom Carroll.
Thanks again, man, and hopefully talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. 1978 podcast out. Later.
Over and out.